In terms of what we'll cover, we want to share a simple but effective framework for developing an effective strategic plan in your club or venue, which will focus on 3 areas. Where are you now? Where do you want to get to, and how are you going to get there? So some simple statements. By the end of this webinar, you'll have all the fundamentals of how to develop your own club's plan, as well as some practical exercises to do as a management team to help steer what goes into your plan. So we'll take you through the whole strategic planning process. It'll be an overview. It's very detailed, a lot of language and terminology, and there's a lot of different phrases that kind of cover the same thing in strategic planning. So you may think of things that are a bit interchangeable, but we'll use a certain set of language and terminology. We'll only, in this 60 minutes in total, we'll only provide an overview of developing your plan. And to access further information, as we say all the time, please get in touch with us at any point in time. Myself and Luke or Pam are always available to help with developing strategic plans, advice around business planning, and how to structure your clubs. So please feel free to get in touch after the webinar. Okay, so I mean, the first thing to say really is we know that 2020 has been a year like no other with the COVID-19 pandemic. And actually, good governance and effective management, strategic planning is absolutely vital in times of change. And we've seen that this year. And it's been tested no more than during this pandemic. Management teams at venues, at clubs have had to act quickly and adapt to constant change. We've had to do that at Tennis Wales. I lead on writing and interpreting the Welsh Government guidance, and at times that's changed 2-3 times a week. So you're constantly managing a changing situation. And you have to communicate that as clearly as you can and make sure people know that. So it's been an incredibly difficult time in terms of for a variety of reasons, obviously primarily for health reasons, but also for support in all areas of society in terms of reacting to new structures and new ways of working. I think us at Tennis Wales have been so impressed with the way that our venues have reacted to the challenges that you've faced. And it just shows there is good governance in the vast majority of our venues. You've been able to do that and open up safely. So a big well done from us. But just to kind of finish that point, management teams have had to act quickly and adapt to constant change. So having good structures and processes in place is vital to provide a solid foundation to support the club through these turbulent times that we've faced. Just in terms of some feedback, clubs are telling us that they feel positive about their own governance and management with a mean score of 4 out of 5. That's from the Club Health Survey the LTA run, with 0 being, or 1 being very unhealthy and 5 being very healthy. So in most of the webinars we've done so far, scores are in around 3 for the areas we've covered. This one is 4. So it shows in general that venues feel that they strategically plan well, which is great to hear. A third of clubs, 34%, said that focus on governance and management is a priority for the next 6 months. And we know that those seeing success have commented on a renewed commitment from committees and volunteers to support the club through the pandemic and into the future. So a great time to develop your plans moving forward, to look at them, revise them, think about the restrictions. A lot of venues have gone to Club Spark, for example, to manage bookings in a safe way. And now's the time to just review your club plans and how you work. So I'm now going to hand over to Pam, and Pam's just going to take you through some of the LTA support available around club governance, and then get stuck into the topic mainly in terms of effective strategic planning and why you should have a plan if you haven't got one. Over to you, Pam. Just on mute, Pam.
Put my mic on. Okay, good evening, everybody. Good governance is such a broad topic, far too broad to cover all aspects of good governance in one webinar. Hence why we've broken it up into bite-sized chunks. Today, starting with strategic planning. The whole topic is covered in our self-service guide to club governance. You can find this on the LTA website under the Venue Support Toolkit. It covers some of the detail from today's session, but much more, including selecting the right legal structure, recruiting the right mix of people on your management team, through to financial planning, risk management, and ensuring compliance at every level. It's worth a read if you get a chance. We aim to cover some of these other topics in future webinars, but as for today, it's all about the future direction and your plans. Following this webinar, please read the strategic planning section if you haven't done so already. It will reinforce what strategic plans are and the benefits of having one. We won't cover all of this here today, as we want to focus on some of the practical exercises around the simple framework to help you formulate your plan. Okay, so what is a strategic plan? Simply put, it's your long-term master plan. It should identify the future development of the club and should remain high level, not focusing on the detail, but the key themes or priorities. An effective plan should shape the decisions and actions of the activity at your club or venue. And more importantly, it should be a live working document that's completed as a group, and it's something that's used and doesn't sit on a shelf. Okay, you may have tried to establish a strategic plan before and had pushback internally. We often hear some of these comments from clubs. Do any of them ring true? So things such as strategies are for big companies and we are a sports club, we just want to play. We know what we are doing, we just get on with it. So these are some of the things that we hear. Okay, so I'm going to hand over Jamie for the first poll.
I'll mute myself first. Right, the first poll, which I'll just pop up now, is just going to focus on, actually, do you have a strategic plan? It'd just be good to hear. So I'll launch the polling now. So just some honest feedback, if you don't mind. Yes, we've got a strategic plan. It's a live working document. We review it regularly and measure performance. Yes, but it needs to be developed and revisited. Yes, it's sat on a shelf somewhere, gathering dust. That happens quite often, so don't feel guilty about that. Or no, we would like to work towards creating one. And one thing I would just pick up is the term strategic plan can be quite interchangeable sometimes with a strategic vision and a business plan and a business case. They are all slightly different things, but in essence, they do mean the same thing in terms of they set the direction of your work and what you want to achieve. Okay, I shall end the poll if everyone's had a go, and I'll share the results. So we can see that in the vast majority of cases, no, people don't have a plan currently, but like to work towards creating one, which is great. Hopefully you'll take something from today and we could help you with that moving forward. And then we've got four of the respondents saying that they do have a plan, but it needs to be developed and revisited. So hopefully we've all got something just to keep working on. So I'll stop sharing those results. Okay, and I will hand on even to Luke to cover the next area.
Thanks, Jamie. Good evening, everyone. So let's move on to selling the benefits of having a strategic plan in place. Developing a strategy with clear actions can have a significant benefit or benefits, including it will help you map out your future, provide a clear vision for your members, staff, and potential funders. A good plan can't be built in isolation. It should be a collective group effort with insight being drawn from visitors, players, your members, staff, and the governance structures. Therefore, it encourages collaboration between everyone involved within your club. For those management committee members amongst us, it helps us track progress and finally gives clarity on the direction to incoming board and committee members, helping with continuity of planning, consistency, and aid succession planning. If you're still not sure why you need one, this analogy might be useful to use at your club. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to give you a minute to look at this picture and think about what you see. Feel free to unmute and discuss what you see if you unmute your mics as well, and be interested to see what thoughts come out. I'll give you a minute or so. Feel free to share your thoughts.
I'm Simon from Bowden Bowling near Manchester.
Okay.
Oh, yep. Well, the message is you can see a certain way into the future, but only a certain distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's very interesting, and people sometimes see different things. I mean, so some of the notes we have here. So behind me, the past is crystal clear. In front of me, the future is blurred and it looks like it's approaching quickly and at speed. The driver's in the middle of the road rather than committing to one side or the other. No clear direction. For me, this scene encapsulates perfectly the issues of not having an overarching plan for your business. So without a plan, a business is essentially rudderless, and day-to-day activities are likely to be haphazard and reactive, in stark contrast to those businesses implementing a well-thought-out plan. So management teams without a plan tend to get involved in day-to-day operations rather than focus on the strategic aims of the club. Thanks, Jamie. So let's keep it simple. I'd like to introduce a simple but effective formula to start developing a well-thought-out strategic plan. So where you are now plus where you are going would equal your strategy. Add in how you're going to get there, who is responsible for what, and how you keep score equals your business plan. So let's start with where you are now. How do you identify where you are now? So simple, conduct a situation analysis. This is critical to be able to make informed decisions, but needs to be based on data and evidence and not on emotion. And that's a really important factor, because sometimes our emotions can get the better of us, and actually it's actually thinking logically about informed and data-driven information. It doesn't need to be a drawn-out process either. Try using these three simple analysis tools: a SWOT, operational, membership and coaching program analysis, and looking externally, a competitor analysis. You're all probably very familiar with the SWOT analysis, and these are simple to do as a committee, board, management team, or even conduct one as part of a members forum to understand your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Operation analysis is an example of using a S.W.O.T process. So an operation analysis is simple to do. You basically list all your core areas of work within your club and rate their performance. Give each area a core S.W.O.T score out of 10. So for example, food and beverages, you could score 8. Membership, you might score 5. But the important part here is the score and asking why. Why have you scored it the way you have? And challenge your scores. If you, for example, if you've given your coaching program a 9 out of 10, why is your coaching program so good? Could you give 9 reasons why? Membership and coaching program analysis, or membership and coaching program for many clubs, is the core revenue streams. In order to develop an effective plan, it is important to understand your current membership profile or composition. It could be as simple as writing down what your membership numbers and trends look like over the last 5 years. You could use insight you have already captured from membership surveys, a topic we covered in our retention webinar recently. That could be used to inform a picture of your membership, and finally get your own bespoke club profile report from your PDP, so either myself or Pam, or your more local one if you're from an English region. And this will help you understand more about your membership and the potential within your local community. Speak to your members, to the local community, local stakeholders, for example, schools, sponsors, local authorities, etc. Don't presume that you already know what they think of your club, because you could be surprised. And finally, from me, the competitor analysis. A simple competitor analysis allows you to benchmark your club against your competition and outline yours and their strengths and weaknesses. Looking at this information helps identify where there are opportunities and threats for your club. You'll have a better understanding of your place in the market too. Competitor analysis, don't just look at other tennis venues, because that's a common thing that we will see. Consider other health and fitness facilities and potentially other leisure opportunities. You have now done all of your analysis, and based on this insight and data, you can now move on to developing where you are going in your future direction. So I'm now going to hand you over to Pam for the next bit.
Okay, so where are you going? This will form the basis of your strategy and focuses on your vision, mission, and your club values. A vision, a one-sentence statement describing what your club would like to achieve or accomplish. It's a long-term change an organisation would like to see if its work is successful. So this would be your club's purpose. The best vision statements are inspirational and memorable, and ideally no more than 20 words. The mission, a one-sentence statement that describes why you exist, should define the purpose of the organisation. And again, the best mission statements are clear and concise, and ideally no more than 15 words. And values. These are beliefs that are shared amongst your stakeholders of your club or venue. The values drive the club's culture and priorities and provide a framework in which decisions are made and your behavioural and decision-making compass. So let's look at an example. Okay, so this is the LTA example, and here you will see the vision of tennis opened up. Okay, so it's very clear and concise. And the mission of growing tennis by making it relevant, accessible, welcoming and enjoyable. And then we go on to the values of teamwork, passion, integrity and excellence. So far you've established where you are and where you want to go. Now simply to define how we get there and how to prioritise your aims. Okay, this is a great exercise to do as a committee, a diamond 9. So draw out these rectangles in a diamond shape or grab 9 pieces of paper or sticky notes. And as a committee, write down the core areas of work. These could be the same as you identified earlier in the operational analysis, but consider other projects you might be working on, such as court or facility developments. If you have less than 9, then use a smaller diamond shape that works for you. The number of objectives the club can have is not set in stone, but realistically, these should not be too many and allow you to focus and prioritise. So now to prioritise them using the diamond. The number 1 priority should be at the top, followed by the second and third priorities, and so on. Things to ask yourself: do you all agree as a board on your core objectives and the order in which they should be tackled? Okay, so these are key things to have at this point, because if everybody's not agreed on what the highest priorities should be, you will have the group or the board or the committee all heading in different directions. There's no clear line in how we're going to tackle and move forward. Once complete, you should now have, hopefully, an agreed and prioritised plan of objectives for your business. Now, to put some detail behind each of the core objectives, and this is what we're going to refer to as tactics. Okay, so for each objective, you need to consider what the aim, that core area is, and what you're trying to achieve, and who is responsible and where the support is going to come from. Add in some SMART goals for that core area. Make sure it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So things like not just an increase in membership with a deadline of ongoing. You can now develop the tactics to meet your goal and your overall aim. Ideally, delivering all of the tactics should achieve the overarching objective, and achieving all of the objectives should deliver the mission and contribute towards your vision. Okay, so just looking at this example, the core area of work here is membership. We're going to identify who from our committee or board is going to be responsible for this area of work and supported by who. So this might be the board, or it might be supported by parents or coaches. So the strategic aim is to increase the number of full playing members within the club. And our SMART goal is to increase the membership by 30 full playing members by March 2021. So it's very measurable and it's very specific and it's time bound. And tactics, these are some of the things that we're going to do in order to meet that goal. We're going to attend an LTA Growing Your Membership webinar. We're going to create a recruitment and marketing plan from the data and the insight. We're going to arrange members and sales training with our staff or volunteers, promote a member, get member campaign, and we're also going to deliver an outreach program to 5 local schools between March and June. So hopefully by completing these tactics, it will start to deliver our goal, and then it goes back to the strategic aim, which then leads back to the core area of work and then hits on the vision. Okay, so I'm going to hand back to Jamie.
Okay, I'm just going to finish off by just talking about keeping score. And the final step really is to consider what are the key metrics you're going to monitor in order to know that you're successful or not. Pam just gave you a good example there of a metric that's time bound for, so that would be one that I would say, that's a good example. It has a number and it has a time limit to how you're going to achieve it. I'm no pilot. Luke and Pam may be pilots, maybe them in the picture, but it's a useful analogy to use. The cockpit of a plane is very complicated. place, but a pilot hones in on just 6 of the dials in essence when he flies the plane, or he or she flies the plane. The fuel limit, the speed, the direction, the altitude, the vertical speed, and the oil pressure. These are the key measures required to keep the plane airborne. So those are the things that are of critical importance for the pilot to make sure the plane stays in the air and gets from A to B. So what are your key measures as a club? What key performance indicators, KPIs, do you measure? What do you need to monitor in order to keep your business from crashing? These are important to establish, can be drawn out of the core objectives. I think, you know, in terms of an observation, quite often you'll see the analogy that a strategic plan sits on the shelf gathering dust. I think quite often the reason for that is that people probably haven't clearly identified the tactics and the objectives that Pam just spoke through, but then there's not a review process in place. So you may have written it and have a plan and a vision, but you don't know how you're going to measure the impact of that, and you haven't got a review process in place. So you don't have the measures, and you don't say we're going to review our strategic plan every committee meeting, every 6 months, every 12 months, whatever it is. Just having that review process and timeline in place will make sure that that strategic plan doesn't sit on the shelf, because ultimately writing the plan is the first step. Doing it is the most important thing, and making sure you commit to doing it is by far the most important thing. So at this stage, in about 30 minutes, you've now got a strategic plan. You have a vision and mission and values to guide you. You have identified key objectives, prioritized them using the diamond analogy that Pam talked through. And each of those has a clear aim, goals and tactics, actions, because another phrase used for how you're going to achieve those goals. You also know what key measure you're going to use to track your progress. So making sure you know what are the key things you need to deliver. At this stage, you can switch the strategic plan into your business plan by taking each of those core objectives, the tactics, the deadline, the time limit you've put on it, and putting it into a simple one-page business plan. Everyone works differently. Just again, to give you a little bit of flavor in terms of how I work, I like to have an Excel spreadsheet that I can fit onto one computer screen, not one I've got to scroll across and try and find, and then simply have your actions on the left-hand side. You have a time frame, a quantitative outcome in terms of number, and then use a Gantt diagram. So set in some time frames, and then just rag rate red, amber, green in terms of your progress. Because again, a key kind of critical area with strategic planning and delivery of them is people are super enthusiastic to deliver everything at once, and actually can't do everything at the same time. So it's about time framing those, and then being super clear on who's going to do what when, so who's accountable for things as well. So objective, time frame, accountability, and then a rag rating, red, amber, green. And that gives you a tool at your committee meetings just to check and challenge your progress, make sure you're on track. And if things change, that's the most important thing. A strategic plan shouldn't sit on a shelf. You can change it. It's not written 4 years later. You can change it. Make sure you do that collectively as a committee, and you look at why things haven't been successful and why they need to change. But don't ever be afraid to change focus, but just always sense check that and make sure as a committee you're in agreement that you are amending your plan and your actions, your objectives, and you know why you're doing that and the direction that you're going in. As I said before, this should form the basis of every management team meeting, checking your progress with your core objectives against your measures and reviewing your strategy and plans going forward. So always a constant cycle of review, plan, deliver, review, plan, deliver. Okay, very conscious again, that's been a whistle-stop tour of strategic planning, but there is some very good core information there. So the 3 key takeaways from today's session are, you'll now hopefully understand the benefits of a strategic plan and how to carry out a situational analysis and to establish where you are now. You'll also know that you can use that analysis. Through that analysis, you can now establish your club's why, your vision, your mission statements, and your values. So those overarching key principles that guide your existence, who you are, and what you want to do. This will then ensure that you can establish your core objectives and tactics to achieve your mission and your vision. So you then drill down right into those objectives, the things you need to do to achieve your mission and your vision. Remember to share these ideas with your wider committee and seriously consider as a group working through some of these exercises to start developing a strategic plan for the future. So again, we'll share access to these tools that we've spoken about through the information that follows this, this webinar. And the other thing you can do as well is think about the membership in your club. So yes, as a committee, you're responsible for delivering and driving the strategy, but don't be afraid to use other members that you know have skills and experiences in certain areas. And I've seen good examples of this in clubs whereby you might have some marketing and promotion kind of communications experts in the club. Bring them onto the committee or co-opt them on to lead on marketing and communications for you. So don't narrow your focus just to those on the committee. People are busy, so always think about who else can help from across the club and its broader structure. Think about some of the parents of your junior members as well. So always try and be inclusive in your approach, and also think about consultation as well. So we've developed a plan, we've got an idea, the direction we want to go in, but to deliver that plan, we need everyone to buy in. We need people's help to do X, Y, and Z as the volunteers. So always think about actually, you know, we get to a certain point and think about how you can share your plan for some feedback as well. And don't be afraid to act on that feedback and change things based on what people say. Okay, so we've reached the end. So finally, as always, we'd like to hear your feedback from clubs on the content and future content of these sessions to ensure that it's right for clubs moving forward. So I have just got one final poll, which I won't share the results of, but just some feedback for us to take on board. So just a couple of questions here. I'll just launch the polling. So just want to know what you found useful from today's session and informative. Have you found it, sorry, useful and informative? And then the second question is, which of the 3 topic areas did you find most useful? So understanding where you are now for your analysis, where you're going via vision, mission, and values. I knew I'd finally stumble over those words. How are you going to get there through core objectives and tactics? All of the above or none of the above? Hopefully not. Just a couple more seconds. Okay, I'll just end the polling there. Just quickly show you the results. So great to see that most people have been positive about today's session. And I always feel if you take one thing away, that we've won. So taking one thing away that you put in place in action is brilliant. So glad that most people have seen the value. Really interesting to see that there's a spread there of people in terms of the areas found most useful. Most people said that they found everything useful, which is great. So we'll share those results with the LTA, and that'll help us think about how we future plan these sessions. Stop sharing the results. Close that. Okay, so thank you for dialing into the webinar. I'm really grateful for everyone doing that again. As discussed, we'll collect all the questions and the poll results and share this with you along with the presentation slides, so you'll have the tools. The process of writing a plan will be in there, so please use that as a crib sheet, and links to resources on the LTA website, etc., to all of you in the next couple of days. In the meantime, please feel free to get in touch with Luke, Pam, or myself to book a follow-up. Off the back of a number of the webinars we've done this autumn, we're working now with a number of clubs on new priorities and new actions, which is fantastic. So if there's something you want to focus on, please don't hesitate to get in touch.